Chapter 361, Wishful Thinking. After work, Fang Hao escorted Zhou Fen back to the villa, leaving their son there with his ex-wife. He had to go to the armed police center to handle the documents that had been unsealed. He didn't mention anything to Su Ro about what she had inquired. He simply left without a word. Su Buiyuan saw his daughter standing at the gate of the courtyard, hesitating to come in even as a light rain began to fall. Holding an umbrella, he approached her and said, "What's wrong? You have a baby in your belly, and if you catch a cold, what will you do?" Su Ro shivered, realizing that it was raining, and her hair was already damp. Su Buiyuan asked, "What are you thinking? Is it about Fang Hao? Didn't he go for surgery?" Su Ro replied, "No, he didn't go for surgery. He's going to the armed police center to find out the source of the toxin that caused Mom's amnesia." Su Buiyuan furrowed his brows and asked, "Is it related to Tianyi Hospital?" "Dad, don't think about it, please don't." Su Ro said internally. With the increasing exposure of Zhang Lingtian's actions, she had a premonition that she wouldn't be able to keep it a secret for much longer. She hurriedly said, "Let's go inside. You can talk to Mom about your past, especially your love story from university. Maybe she will remember something." "I was thinking the same. Back then, your mother was an unparalleled beauty, pursued by many. In the end, I was the one who won her heart. We had quite a few stories between us. Yes, reminisce with her. Later, let Tian listen. It can be like telling him a bedtime story. I'm a bit tired, I'll lie down in the room for a while." Su Ro entered the house, gave some instructions to her son, and heard her father reminiscing with her mother about their youthful days. She smiled slightly and went upstairs. She called the person and asked, "Ling Tian, my husband is investigating and organizing materials at the armed police center. Are you okay?" "Of course, I haven't left anything behind anywhere. Little turtle can't find anything." On the other end of the call, Zhang Lingtian was looking at the Nanhua Sutra on his desk, contemplating the photo without faces. He stood up and walked to the window, gazing at the statue in the drizzling rain. "You are my Venus." Armed Police Center. Here, Chief Chang and the others had also started their work, busy with processing. Fang Hao checked the drug testing and found no new toxins. While there were some prohibited or untaxed imported drugs, the amount was small, and the tax evasion was minimal. Even if fined, it would be a drop in the ocean for Zhang Lingtian. Certainly, Fang Hao didn't expect to bring down Zhang Lingtian through tax evasion. He went over the items one by one and discovered that the Nanhua Sutra had been replaced, and the photo inside naturally disappeared. Zhang Laogo's methods were truly pervasive. Fang Hao remained calm, treating it as if nothing had happened. Chief Chang approached and said, "During the day, this woman claimed to be unwell and requested medical parole. I know you're the best doctor, so you decide." Fang Hao looked at the information and surprisingly found it was Zhang Yue Huo. "Didn't expect to catch this old woman." Fang Hao said, "I'll go have a look." He went to the single room where Zhang Yue Huo was detained. She was lying on the bed, pale and weak. When Zhang Yue Huo saw Fang Hao, surprise, fear, and anger flickered in her eyes. She had already learned that this investigative team, represented by Fang Hao, had great power and influence on behalf of Zhou Fen. "President Zhang, I heard you're not feeling well and want medical parole. Luckily, I have some knowledge in this area, so I'll take a look and help you." Seeing Zhang Yue Huo resist, Fang Hao continued, "I'm one of the few doctors in this expert group. If you want parole, you need my signed approval. If you don't let me examine you, are you afraid I'll find out you're faking it?" Zhang Yue Huo had no choice but to agree. Fang Hao took Zhang Yue Huo's pulse, examined her pupils, then pinched her mouth, pried it open, and inserted a tongue depressor to stimulate the base of her tongue and throat. Stimulated by this, Zhang Yue Huo couldn't help but vomit. Among the things she threw up, there were capsules that hadn't had time to digest. "Someone, take this for analysis." Fang Hao used tweezers to pick up the capsule and handed it to the staff nearby. Chief Chang could discern from Zhang Yue Huo's changing facial expressions that she was feeling guilty. He was increasingly impressed by Fang Hao's abilities. After about half an hour, Fang Hao received the test report for the capsule. He then said to Chief Chang, "Someone gave this to Zhang Yue Huo to induce symptoms such as fatigue, drowsiness, and cardiac arrhythmia. The goal was to secure medical parole. Has anyone visited Zhang Yue Huo today?" No outsiders came in, but indeed, someone had contact with her. "Are you suggesting that someone from our team is involved?" Chief Chang, being experienced in such struggles, quickly grasped the intricacies. Fang Hao nodded and said, "It's quite obvious. So, the results of this operation may not be as expected." The waters in Jiangdong City are deep. However, those who drown are usually good swimmers. Chief Chang seemed to have discovered a very valuable prey, his eyes gleaming. I'll talk to Zhang Yuehua alone. Fang Hao, holding the report, went to see Zhang Yuehua. The situation here might not be enough to implicate Zhang Lingtian, but dealing with Zhang Yuehua was still feasible. Don't blame me, it's all because you reached out. Fang Hao tossed the report directly in front of Zhang Yuehua and said, don't use such petty tricks in front of professionals. Caught red-handed. Zhang Yuehua's face turned embarrassed, but her fear of Fang Hao intensified. This handsome man in front of her was the only one who dared to come knocking, directly confronting her elder brother, leaving him speechless. That night, she thought it was a coincidence, but now it seemed she had underestimated Fang Hao. Fang Hao continued, Zhang Yuehua, be honest. Where did the toxin that harmed Professor Zhou come from? Zhang Yuehua said, I really don't know. I have a very good relationship with Sister Zhou. I would never harm her. Besides, I wasn't at Tianyi Hospital that day, I was out discussing business. I have no idea what happened there. You are the legal representative of Tianyi Hospital. It doesn't make sense for you not to know what happened there. Fang Hao, I'm just a businesswoman. Tianyi Hospital is just a small unit under my company. Moreover, I invest in pharmaceuticals, hotels, tourism, transportation, and other industries. I represent many enterprises as their legal representative. I only care about profits, and I don't involve myself in the day-to-day management. There are professionals below me who handle that. You can't make me responsible just because of this. Zhang Yuehua cried out in justice. Oh, profits. Oh, don't worry. I've also found evidence of your tax evasion. The amount is not small. Imported drugs are not taxed, and there are other aspects. Combined, it's enough for you to spend some time behind bars. The Chang and Li families won't spare you. You can't be arrogant anymore. Why are you targeting me? Only now did Zhang Yuehua realize that Fang Hao, not content with letting her go on the toxin issue, would also find fault in the management of the group. Was this a conspiracy against her or against the Zhang family? She immediately asked, is it because of Chang Yu's matter? You see, you're quite clever. Fang Hao leaned in very close, almost with his mouth against Zhang Yuehua's ear. He whispered, that night, you met with Zhang Quan for 20 minutes. What did you talk about? Let me out, and I'll tell you. Oh, you're really ugly, but unfortunately, you think you're beautiful. Chapter 362, Extremely Urgent. Chief Chang held the data report handed to him by Fang Hao and said, from these findings, this person named Zhang Yuehua has significant issues with her company's operations. Fang Hao understood Chief Chang's implication but didn't respond immediately. Instead, he handed over a cigarette, lit it, claiming it was to clear his mind. Zhang Laogo's money didn't come out of thin air. With so many women and involvement in various industries, he needed a solid economic foundation. Romantic endeavors and literary pursuits also required funds. Without unexpected windfalls, how could Zhang Laogo afford it all? Fang Hao thought about his own situation. In the past 4 years, working steadily and earning only a few thousand yuan a month, he barely had enough for daily expenses. How could he afford to be extravagant? If he didn't spend, how could he create the romance that Su Ro desired? Zhang Laogo wouldn't personally intervene, he needed to maintain an air of mystery. Moreover, as he aged, he increasingly needed puppets to manage his business. He would prioritize family members, such as Zhang Yuehua. However, human greed is difficult to control. If Zhang Yuehua and others discovered opportunities for extra gains, they would undoubtedly reach out even further. Fang Hao also wondered about Su Ro. He didn't know what arrangements Zhang Lingtian would make for her. Su Hong was assigned to the banking system and quickly became the deputy director. A remarkable achievement at such a young age. Cheng Yu also entered the political and legal system. If not for this incident, she could have undoubtedly taken over Chang Lao's position in the future. Yang Wenjin served 3 terms as the dean of the Provincial People's Hospital, wielding significant influence. In the past 4 years, he was easily controlled. Zhou Yun, holding control over Jiulong Group, managed the core business of the Zhang Group. Zhou Jiejia, for now, hadn't been assigned anything, probably still in the nurturing phase. It wasn't clear where she would be placed after graduating. Su Ro, the senior financial director of Jiulong Group, appeared to be well compensated, enjoying an easy life at first glance. However, Fang Hao inadvertently gained more insider information by controlling Zhou Yun. Zhou Yun told Fang Hao that Su Ro was actively involved in the City South Park project and many other projects. The operations were arranged based on Su Ro's decisions, as she understood Zhang Lingtian's intentions the best. Zhou Yun also informed Fang Hao that Su Ro would be entrusted with Jiolong Group in the future. According to Zhou Yun's inference, Zhang Lingtian was likely grooming Su Ro to take control of the Zhang Group. Upon hearing this, Fang Hao began to understand why Su Ro was so protective of Zhang Lingtian. She not only coveted the cake that Zhang Laogo promised her but also had a substantial role waiting for her. She truly believed in Laogo. Su Ro, do you desire both Laogo's cake and me with our family? How can you be so greedy? Don't expect things to go as you wish. Fang Hao withdrew his thoughts and returned to the present written report. He said, you don't need to worry about alerting the enemy. Proceed with dealing with Zhang Yue Huo, and let's see who takes the bait. I have the same idea. This woman doesn't seem very clever, making her the perfect bait. Chief Chong nodded, revealing a ruthless glint in his eyes. Fang Hao exhaled a puff of smoke and began to put himself in Zhang Lingtian's position. If he were Zhang Lingtian, how would he rescue Zhang Yue Huo? He thought about Zhang Jing's message and the fate of Zhang Jun, among other things. He said, however, Chief Chong, regarding Zhang Yue Huo, she could shift the blame to the financial staff below her, find someone to take the fall. It's highly likely she'll eventually escape punishment. When that happens, if you're walking by the river, be careful that when she's pulled out, she doesn't push you in. Chief Chang's pupils slightly constricted, showing a thoughtful expression, and he nodded in agreement. The next day, Fang Hao found that his ex-wife had sent their son to kindergarten early in the morning and then brought Zhou Fan over. Zhou Fan still considered Su Ro as her daughter-in-law, but the fact that Su Ro was pregnant with twins greatly changed Zhou Fan's attitude toward her. After calming Zhou Fan, Fang Hao noticed that his ex-wife didn't leave immediately. It was evident she had something on her mind. He said, ask away. What do you want to know? Su Ro's eyes showed increasing concern, and she asked, husband, let go of the past. We need to grasp and cherish the present for a future together. Don't speak in riddles. Be direct. Regarding the investigation into your mother's poisoning, there hasn't been any breakthrough. Our country lacks the industrial conditions to produce such a high-quality toxin, and even laboratories find it challenging. The only possibility is that this substance came from overseas. The situation is complicated, and it's not something I can investigate. I won't tell you this. The expert group will explain it to your family in due time. Fang Hao started reviewing some of the nurses' recorded data from the previous night. Everything was under his control, and he already had a treatment plan for the day. He continued, however, hitting the mark on this one is still beneficial. Zhang Yue Huo's Tianziji is a major tax evader. You and Cheng Yu are familiar with legal matters and should understand what this implies. Go tell old Zhang to come out quickly and rescue her. Seeing Su Ro's face becoming even colder, Fang Hao knew he had touched a nerve. He added, don't just stand there. You and old dog should get things done. Zhang Yue Huo is also your sister-in-law, you should rescue her. Husband, don't be like this. I am yours, and I only want to remarry you. Su Ro hurriedly spoke, attempting to come closer and kiss Fang Hao. Oh, so ruthless? Giving up on Zhang Yue Huo? Fang Hao kept his eyes on his ex-wife. Judging from her changing expressions, he could roughly guess her decision, cutting off the tail for self-preservation. He felt suddenly disinterested because she did indeed decide to give up on Zhang Yue Huo. I can't be too greedy, nor can I be too hasty. Fang Hao took out a set of architectural drawings based on the Jiangdong University Tower. He said, this morning, your dad and I just chatted on WeChat. We plan to rebuild a tower like this as a model and bring your mom inside, hoping to stimulate her memory and make her recall some things. Su Ro asked, how certain is this? I mean, after successful construction, will the stimulation be enough to restore my mom's memory? It depends on how well we handle the personnel. If the staff is sufficient, not even God can stop us. Fang Hao suddenly stared at Su Ro and said, so, we need to make the internal structure more realistic, preferably directly replicating the original scene. You should go back to find your old lover, make him recall the situation at that time, and also ask him for the photos from that year. I have a feeling your old lover will be a crucial figure. Su Ro's body trembled slightly. She instinctively took a step back, distancing herself from Fang Hao. She said, you? Everything you're doing, are you trying to expose us? Have you never thought about remarrying me? You only want everyone to know about this, you want to ruin us. Well, look at you, quite a clever woman. Why did old dog deceive you? Fang Hao looked at his ex-wife with disdain. You are not the husband I knew. You are too terrifying. Su Ro hastily left. She needed to find a quiet place to think. At present, the biggest threat to her was her ex-husband. She needed to find a way to balance things with her ex-husband. After getting into her car, she made a call. Ling Tian, I need to see you urgently, it's a matter of great importance. Chapter 363, Your Existence. Fang Hao treated Cheng Lao, saying, Have you tried standing up? Yes, I felt strength in my legs, so I gave it a try, but it still didn't work. I overestimated myself. Cheng Lao was quite happy, encouraging herself. She felt that if she could stand, it would restore her dignity. Fang Hao shook his head, saying, You are too impatient. Your knee needs a surgical repair. Exerting force like this will further damage it. Your bones are originally fragile. I did provide a reminder in my medical advice about this. If you are in such a rush, aren't you afraid of the treatment regressing? Cheng Lao panicked and said, I didn't think about it that way. I will listen to you from now on and won't be in a hurry anymore. Fang Hao said, You really don't need to be in a hurry. As long as you are alive, you can bring blessings to Li Jun and the others without needing to step onto the stage again and fight for them. The mountain does not need to be tall, it only needs immortals to be famous. The water does not need to be deep, it only needs dragons to be spiritual. Your old age is the best. That's true. I used to think about making waves and competing, but I was wrong. Unexpectedly, your realm is higher than mine. No, you are a person involved, and I am an onlooker. Fang Hao changed the topic, saying, This time, we didn't find any leverage on Zhang Lingtian. Moreover, he can still arrange for people to go in and cause trouble. I told you from the beginning that Zhang Lingtian is exceptionally intelligent but doesn't focus on legitimate businesses. He plays tricks and no one is cleaner than him. It seems that Cheng Lao also suffered losses from Zhang Lingtian when she was young. Fang Hao asked, Oh, was Zhang Lingtian always like this, not focusing on legitimate businesses, from the beginning? Not really. When he was young, he was quite upright and sunny. He spoke sweetly and was deeply loved by middle-aged and young women. He might not be as handsome as you, but not much worse. Add his sweet talk and many little tricks, generosity, embracing new ideas, he was a real lady killer. What about you? Were you also charmed by him? Fang Hao suddenly asked this question. You don't say, he did express his liking for me, and I didn't dislike him either. But I knew about his tricks. I didn't violate principles and morals. In fact, I even sent someone to catch him. If he hadn't run fast, he would have been caught by me. Speaking of which, I have to mention you and Li Jun, unexpectedly catching him with evidence and sending him in. I won't mention the subsequent matter of letting him go, but at least, it was the first time I saw him being caught. You two truly surpassed the master. Cheng Lao did not deny it and said, My younger brother, why did he become enemies with Zhang Lingtian? It's because of a woman. Damn it, how many women has that old dog harmed? Why hasn't anyone been able to kill him? Fang Hao felt resentful, but he also felt that there was brightness in front of him because Cheng Lao took the initiative to talk about Zhang Lingtian. He said, Cheng Lao, among Zhang Lingtian's women, is there one with the last name Zhang? It turns out there is. When I was the chief judge in the city, my assistant had the last name Zhang, and she was bewitched by Zhang Lingtian. Oh, there really is someone with the last name Zhang? Fang Hao asked, How is she now? How? After being played by Zhang Lingtian for less than 2 months, she was abandoned. She even shamelessly wanted to come back, but I refused. Later, she went into the education system. After that, I don't know. Abandoned? It seems not worth erecting a statue. But who knows, Zhang Laogo's thinking may not be able to be measured by common sense. Let's check later. Fang Hao asked, Is your brother's wife also in this situation? Even worse. My brother and the others had a talk organized by the organization. On the way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Zhang Lingtian ran away, making my brother so angry that he vomited blood and was hospitalized. However, from the results, this little episode might not be a bad thing. My brother later found someone who wasn't outstanding in appearance but understood how to manage a family. She has been fruitful for the old Qing family. As for the one who was abducted, she later went to do business in the south and heard that she couldn't escape the fate of relying on selling her body. Oh, it seems that not everyone can get a proper arrangement. At that time, Zhang Laogo may not have money or strength to do everything. Fang Hao saw some in-laws from the Li family coming to visit, so he stopped gossiping and left. Su Buiyuan did go to the school to submit his resignation, but the school didn't agree. Instead, they allowed him to take a break from teaching, and the graduate program continued. He could take care of his family first because the school still needed a professor with Su Buiyuan's qualifications and connections. Su Buiyuan came back and had a detailed discussion with Fang Hao. He also brought people from the construction company to discuss the establishment of the model tower. The matter was quickly settled, and construction started on the same day. Fang Hao asked Su Buiyuan to contact his alumni to continue digging into the details of the tower from back then. Captain Cheng handled the remaining documents and medicines. Since nothing suspicious was found, they considered Zhang Yuehua's tax evasion as a significant achievement and reported it to the provincial and higher authorities, concluding the investigation. Fang Hao didn't meet his ex-wife again that night. He returned to his world with his son. His ex-wife hadn't appeared for several days, no calls, messages, or WeChat. It seemed like she had disappeared from this world. Fang Hao felt calm but also a bit lost. Eventually, he didn't actively inquire about anything related to his ex-wife. One evening after work, Fang Hao received a call from Guolan, saying she wanted to come to Fang Hao's house for dinner. Fang Hao then remembered that he still had such a girlfriend. When his son saw Guolan, he stared at her unhappily. In the end, when she took out a mini tank, he reluctantly called her stepmother. "Tonight, I plan to stay here overnight instead of going to the guest house." Guolan put down her backpack, her face slightly warm but still composed. She said, "Your ex-wife won't be coming back, right? I have nothing to do with her. Don't overthink it. You can choose between the guest room and the master bedroom." Fang Hao was a bit surprised, but Guolan didn't seem like the seductive type like Yue Xia Huo. Her eyes were clear, without the disturbances of motherly or daughterly affection. "Just give me the guest room. The master bedroom is for you and your son." After washing her hands and changing her shoes, Guolan sniffed the socks, found no odor, and put on the slippers Fang Hao had prepared. After dinner, seeing that Fang Hao was about to sit in the study again, she pulled Fang Hao and his son out, heading to the Provincial Armed Police Training Center to practice boxing. She wanted to show off a bit in front of Fang Hao and didn't hide it. She performed a set of military bodybuilding boxing. Fang Hao said, "With your skills, you can take on 10 of me." Seeing Guolan raising 3 fingers, Fang Hao laughed and said, "You overestimate me." "3 of me? I'm not confident about winning against you." "I didn't mean 3, I meant 30. Come on, don't underestimate me. Let's spar. I must emphasize, you can hit other places, but don't hit the face." Fang Hao refused to accept defeat. Even though she was a female special forces soldier, could she really handle 30 of him? Sure. Guolan smiled. Although she knew Fang Hao wasn't her match, if she wanted him as her man, he couldn't be too weak. The two began their match. Fang Hao was easily knocked down, but he also had his strengths. After falling, he hooked Guolan's ankle, bringing her down as well. However, once on the ground, he didn't react as quickly as Guolan did. He received a direct kick to his abdomen. He didn't feel any pain. Getting up, he charged at Guolan again. Seeing Fang Hao's open defense, Guolan kicked out, hitting Fang Hao's lower abdomen. She thought Fang Hao would be knocked over, but he unexpectedly grabbed her ankle. Realizing she had been careless, she swiftly leaned forward into a split. She unlocked this pose. Fang Hao's mind stirred. Chapter 364, Another Lesson. After a half-true, half-false intense battle, both of them were sweating. Guolan managed to knock Fang Hao down several times, but she didn't gain any advantage. It could be considered a draw. She couldn't help but ask, "Are you the bookish Dr. Uncle Huang mentioned?" Fang Hao replied, "Don't forget, I come from the countryside. I climbed mountains and worked in the fields when I was a child, so I still have good stamina. And I've been in a few fights too. So, I'm not as weak as you imagine. Of course, if it comes to a real battlefield and life is at stake, I won't be your match." "Maybe not. You and Uncle Huang both play with knives, understanding the fatal points of the human body. In a real fight, you might not be worse than anyone else." "Oh, have you ever killed someone?" "No. But we've been to the execution ground, seen the scene of someone being killed for real. Then you should consider applying for a desk job." "Why?" "For your own good." Fang Hao didn't say much. Seeing that his son had also played enough, he went home. On the way back, his son showed a clear increase in favor towards Guolan. At night, Guolan did stay over but didn't sleep with Fang Hao. The next day, she volunteered to take his son to kindergarten, and surprisingly, his son didn't object. They left hand in hand. "Are they already this close?" Fang Hao was a bit surprised but also relieved. The biggest challenge in his remarriage was his son. If his son couldn't accept a woman other than his ex-wife, then Fang Hao wouldn't consider it. Living together without resolving such issues would lead to chaos. I'll be staying at your place these days for further adjustment. You know I have many more quirks. After Guolan brought his son back, they took Fang Hao's car to the provincial people's hospital. But she went to the orthopedics department to find Huang Yidao because he had gone to the capital and brought his wife along. Since Guolan didn't know anyone in Jiangdong City, having Huang Yidao's wife as company was convenient. Fang Hao also felt a bit proud and walked with a light step. Moreover, there was some good news from the special care ward. Cheng Yu woke up. She had regained consciousness, could speak, and hadn't lost her memory. However, her limbs were still fractured, and injuries to her spine and ribs hadn't fully healed. She could only lie in bed. Key figures from the Cheng and Li families came to inquire about the events of that night, thinking Cheng Yu would point out Zhang Lingtian. However, to their surprise, Cheng Yu insisted that she accidentally fell from the building and refused to identify Zhang Lingtian. Cheng Yu was so stubborn that it angered the Cheng family. When Cheng Lao said something that let Cheng Yu live or die on her own, everyone dispersed. The female police officer outside also left. Fang Hao recalled his ex-wife's words. At that time, he didn't believe them, but the current situation served as another lesson for him. Cheng Yu wouldn't betray Zhang Lingtian, or perhaps, none of Zhang Lingtian's women would betray him. Women of Zhang Lingtian would silently bear everything. The sadness in Fang Hao's heart surged like a river, but he quickly calmed down. His expression was neither sad nor mournful, he was exceptionally calm. Cheng Yu moved her eyes and glanced at Fang Hao. She said, "Don't treat me anymore. I will be transferred to Tianyi Hospital, where I will receive treatment." Oh, Tianyi Hospital has been sealed. Zhang Lingtian's other private clinics have also been investigated. If you want to transfer, consider other hospitals. Since you don't want me to treat you, I won't treat you anymore. Fang Hao really stopped the treatment and left. Hey, be clear about this. Cheng Yu called Fang Hao's name, but Fang Hao ignored her. Hearing the sound of the door closing, she started to feel a bit anxious. Fang Hao went to Cheng Lao's ward, seeing Cheng's old man inside, and there was a deep displeasure on their faces. Without saying much, when only Cheng Lao was present, Fang Hao said, "Cheng Yu said she doesn't need my treatment anymore. She will wait for Zhang Lingtian's transfer arrangements." Cheng Lao nodded, his face showing clear disappointment. A grown woman can make her own decisions. Which hospital will she be transferred to? Probably Women and Children's Hospital. Zhang Xian at Women and Children's Hospital is also from the Zhang family. Cheng Yu's upcoming treatment for fractures isn't very challenging. Give her some time, and she will recover. Fang Hao pondered in his heart. Since Cheng Yu didn't betray Zhang Lingtian would surely be sentimental. He wouldn't go as far as to harm Cheng Yu again. Cheng Lao suddenly sighed deeply, saying, "Now I'm starting to doubt myself. It seems that decades of effort have been meaningless." Fang Hao frowned, sensing something bad. As expected. Cheng Lao said, "Zhang Yuehua is going to be released. Just as you were concerned before, her company's financials took the blame, and she's only responsible for supervision neglect. This is truly a lesson for me." Fang Hao felt helpless, but he didn't lose confidence. If Zhang Lingtian only had this level of ability, he wouldn't be Zhang Lingtian. He added, with Zhang Lingtian's personality, he will surely have some countermeasures. Be prepared for what's to come. Zhang Lao, that old dog, has probably found someone to balance you long ago. Perhaps, your tactics have been exposed, allowing him to play on the edge for so long. Fang Hao didn't discourage Cheng Lao further to avoid affecting her treatment and recovery. At noon, Fang Hao, Guolan, and the couple Huang Yidao went to have a meal. Huang Yidao's wife wasn't particularly beautiful, but she had the appearance of a good wife. No wonder Huang Yidao repeatedly mentioned having me take over his position while he returned home, citing family responsibilities. It turns out it was true. Fang Hao envied Huang Yidao a bit. After the meal, the two women went shopping. Fang Hao and Huang Yidao returned to the hospital. Huang Yidao handed over a cigarette, saying, "I've been holding back for so long. Finally, I can take a few puffs." "Oh, my wife doesn't allow smoking at home." Fang Hao smiled faintly, not saying much. Huang Yidao said, "This girl Hua Milan seems to have a good impression of you, to the point of moving in with you. Congratulations." Fang Hao said, "We haven't done anything. Don't misunderstand. She says that getting closer allows us to discover each other's flaws. If we can tolerate them, we'll continue, if not, we won't." Huang Yidao grinned, "Aren't you thinking about turning the raw rice into cooked rice?" "Hee hee, I can't beat her. If I try again, I'm afraid she'll cripple me. Fang Hao laughed. After all, she was a female soldier, a female special forces soldier. However, the resistance you face might not be from yourselves, but from her family. Huang Yidao spoke frankly. The disparity in family background and social status between Fang Hao and Guolan was evident. Marriages with mismatched backgrounds required a lot of effort from both sides to achieve happiness. I don't need to consider so much, right? If I get it, I'm lucky, if I lose it, it's fate. Fang Hao was quite content. Huang Yidao said, I see you are still thinking about your ex-wife. You still love your ex-wife. Fang Hao remained silent. To say he didn't love her would be a lie, but to say he accepted her again because of true love would also be a lie. Some feelings, since they couldn't be increased or decreased, could only be left to time to cleanse. Before going to work, Fang Hao unexpectedly received a call from his ex-wife. She started yelling at him right away. She said, Husband, you scum. How dare you let another woman move into our home? You even threw away my things. You're a jerk. Oh, she's back? Fang Hao immediately responded, Jerk, my affairs have nothing to do with you. Chapter 365, Asserting Sovereignty. Speechless. Even though they're divorced, the ex-wife is still entangled. Does she really think they can reconcile? Before Fang Hao could hang up the call, he received a call from Guolan. He answered Guolan's call first, and she informed him that she saw his ex-wife arriving in the neighborhood, driving an extended Mercedes-Benz. Fang Hao asked Guolan to send the photos, and he saw his ex-wife getting out of the RV. Without thinking, he knew it was Zhang Lingtian's car. He said to Guolan, So, you know how annoying my ex-wife is, right? Guolan replied, Indeed. If it weren't for the fact that she's carrying your child, I really want to help you beat her up. You don't mind hitting women, but I don't care. I'll stay for dinner and overnight. Don't think too much, focus on your work. Fang Hao exited the chat, feeling a headache. His ex-wife and current girlfriend were now living together in the same house, a complicated situation. The afternoon passed quickly. When Fang Hao returned home, he found everything intact, inexplicably relieved. Guolan greeted Fang Hao and took their son downstairs to play. She knew Fang Hao would have a conversation with Su Rou. Fang Hao focused on his ex-wife and said, Why are you here? Didn't you say I'm scary? Why dare you come? If you want to see our son, you've seen him. You can leave now. Husband, I came to see you. I missed you. If I'm not mistaken, Guolan is on her period. She can't satisfy you, but I can. Get lost. Fang Hao didn't expect his ex-wife to be so shameless. He sent her a photo, saying, After enjoying a high-end romantic life with an old lover, you come here to disgust and embarrass me? There's nothing happening in the car. I just returned from overseas, and this car came to pick me up. It's mine. His ex-wife raised her voice, Husband, why can't you understand? You're my only true man. How did our daughter come about? That was an accident. I don't know how to explain it to you. You are my only true man. If I lie, let me die giving birth prematurely. His ex-wife wanted to hug Fang Hao but was blocked. Fang Hao sat down and said, Let's talk. Cheng Yu woke up, but as you said before, she took all the blame and won't betray Zhang Lingtian. Seeing that she couldn't get close to Fang Hao, his ex-wife felt a bit resentful, but Fang Hao showed no interest. He didn't want to touch her, leaving her helpless. Adjusting her mood, she said, Cheng Jia still clings to her fantasies. By taking all the blame, she hopes to use it as leverage to get a chance for a comeback. Oh, she woke up, so what are the chances of her recovery? Especially with the spinal injuries, will she be paralyzed for the rest of her life? It's just a common fall and bone fracture, the nerves are intact. With Zhang Xian's ability, treating Cheng Yu is not a problem. By the spring of next year, she will be able to resume normal activities. Fang Hao glanced at his ex-wife and said, She's making a comeback. Will you be squeezed out? This time, his ex-wife didn't answer. Instead, she took out an exquisite watch from the gift box and said, Husband, I bought this for you. This was $1 million limited edition Jaeger LeCoulter. Fang Hao sneered and said, Give it to your old lover. I don't need it. He refused and continued, Seeing your disdainful attitude towards Cheng Yu, I can tell your position in the heart of your old lover. Oh, right, you and your old lover have a daughter, and you hold an everlasting golden decree. Husband, I will remarry you. I only love you. Fang Hao spread his hands and said, Zhang Yue Huo's matter, you've found someone to take the blame. You've won in these 2 rounds. I can't afford to provoke you, but I can avoid you. I'll sell this house, go to the capital with Guolan, meet her family, and then we'll get married and live our lives." His ex-wife's expression suddenly became stern, and she said urgently, "I disagree. Do I need your approval? Let me ask you, what can you do to me? Are you going to fight a legal battle for custody of our son? Bring it on. Is the provincial high court Zhang? If it is, then I'll go to the Supreme Court in the capital. I don't believe he owns that too. Husband, calm down. I can't harm you, and I won't. I love you, and I only love you now. You and Guolan are not suitable. Her family conditions are much better than yours. The gap between you two is too big. Besides, you have a son, and you are remarried. You have no money, no house, no status. The people in Guo's family are from a high-status background. They will exclude and look down on you." Fang Hao chuckled and said, "Then I'll go back to the village. I'll sell this house, take $1 million in savings, and buy a house wherever I want. The girls in the county won't look down on me, right? You. How can you find those women? Are they worthy of you? Do they understand you? Will they love you? I don't care. As long as they are cleaner than you. I don't need women to love me, I just need them not to betray me, not to cuckold me, and live a peaceful life." "You. Husband, are you joking with me? How can you willingly fall so low? Is that so? Falling low? I just want the most ordinary and common life, not the dirty and extravagant life you live. Now, leave or I'll immediately tell Su Buiyuan about you and Zhang Lingtian." "Husband, you. Don't be angry. I'm leaving. I'll go back to accompany my parents." The ex-wife backed off. She knew she couldn't force Fang Hao. Seeing Fang Hao taking her suitcase, she had no choice. Guolan saw Fang Hao coming down with Su Ro and her luggage, and she thought, Fang Hao can be so decisive. No more hesitation? After thinking for a while, she walked over and said, "Fang Hao, see her off." Su Ro felt cold in her heart, looking at Guolan. Guolan was fearless. Fang Hao nodded and said, "Okay, I'll see her off. You and our son play for a while. I'll be back soon, and we'll go out for dinner." Su Ro said goodbye to her son, but she found that her son didn't want to leave with her, making her even more disheartened. In the car, Su Ro looked at the street scene outside and said, "Husband, have you figured it out? This Guolan is not simple. She is declaring sovereignty over me. She seems generous and understanding, but in reality, she is indicating that she has ownership and control over you. If I want to get close to you, I need her permission." Fang Hao ignored her. How could he not see through this? Su Ro continued, "Also, she only met our son a few times, and she's already won his heart. Her tactics are quite impressive. Once she's clean, she'll crawl into your bed. Can you control such a woman? Don't worry about these things. My choices, no matter what, are something I have to accept. You only know if the shoes fit after trying them on. In the days to come, I'll know the warmth and coldness myself." Fang Hao glanced at his ex-wife in the rearview mirror and said, "Regardless, it's still better than you, cleaner than you." "Clean? Is that so?" Su Ro's mouth twitched coldly.